What's up guys, it's CG. So this is going to be a thorough review of Carlisle by the house of Parfums de Marly. First I'm going to give you guys a rundown so you have a general idea what the fragrance is about. Then I'm going to share how users rated the scent profile and the performance. My wife and I are going to share our impressions of it. And finally I'm going to share my overall opinion after wearing it. Without further ado, let's get this started. The vibe I get from this is kind of in that Christmas category. It kind of has an apple pie-like vibe, or if you think of apple pie cinnamon, but it's very unique. So even though it's sensible in the sense it fits that kind of season and that kind of atmosphere, it has a lot of uniqueness to it. It has almost like an apple pie-like ambery sweetness with a ton of spices up top that's giving it this really fresh kick and this patchouli earthiness in the base that's making it mature, refined, and elegant. I actually really love Carlisle. I think it's amazing. In the top you have green apple, nutmeg, saffron. In the heart you have tonka bean, rose, osmanthus, davana. In the base you have vanilla, patchouli, opopanax, and resinoid. On average, users rated this scent an 8.4. About 4 out of 5 people would give it an 8 or above, and about 1 out of 5 would think it's mid at best or give it a 7 or lower. I would give Carlisle objectively a 10, but personally, for my subjective how much I enjoy it, I would give it a 9.5. And the only reason I'm giving it a 9.5 is I slightly prefer Tony Yomi Monkey Special. I'm not saying it smells like Carlisle, but it really fits a certain use case scenario of cold weather, kind of has a Christmas but very interesting, unique, almost dark vibe. So in that category, I prefer Yomi, but at the same time, that can change easily. Carlisle is right up on the back of it for sure, and I think it's a 10 fragrance. Objectively, I think it's a masterpiece. It really combines creativity with sensibility very well. For longevity, I got an average rating of an 8.8. 92% of voters would give it an 8 or above. For longevity, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 10. For me, this lasts the whole entire workday and then some, which to me is just as good as it gets, 10 plus hours. For sillage, I got an average rating of an 8.5. My personal rating would be a 9. This has got really good projection to the point I have to be careful with how much I spray it. I'll admit I go very nose blind to this stuff very easily and very rapidly, but people around me will let me know they can smell where I was a couple minutes ago. Like, this stuff really projects, has great performance in my experience. I think it's a masterpiece fragrance, very unique, very well done. Sensible and creative are the two words I'd use to describe Carlisle. Before I get into describing my impression of the scent profile, the biggest points of contention I have regarding this fragrance, there's really 3 of them. For one, a lot of people will say this fragrance is super polarizing, hard to wear, not office friendly at all. And I'm just going to be real here, I don't agree with that at all. I think overall it's a pretty easy to like scent. I don't think it's something that's totally out there. I don't think it's like super creative that way. I think it actually is sensible. It kind of has like a really nice spiced apple, kind of earthy vibe. But overall, I think this is a pretty safe scent. I'm not getting something crazy from it, and I've shown it to quite a few people and worn this in a lot of public scenarios. It never felt out of place to me. I just don't think it's very challenging, very daring, to be honest. I think it just smells amazing, smells really good, and makes sense. The other thing I'm going to disagree with people on is that a lot of people just say the opening sucks, but the dry down's the best part. For me, the opening is the best part. People call the opening screechy. I kind of understand that coming from, but really that blast of like spices and patchouli and the way it's blended with that ambery kind of apple pie smell in that intro, there's really nothing else like it. That opening almost has this, it's a very fall fragrance, but it's also very fresh. For me, it's almost like getting hit in the face with a bunch of apple cider. It's super interesting, super fresh, really love it on the opening. If anything, the dry down I find a bit more underwhelming. But a lot of people are the other way around, it seems, when it comes to this fragrance. And the final point of contention I have is that it's been reformulated, so the performance on newer bottles sucks. This fragrance is very strong. Even on the new formulations, I don't know what the pre-reformulation is. I've only had newer bottles, newer decants of it. And my experience with it is so strong. If anything makes this fragrance not office friendly, it's that it's easy to overspray it and kind of be too forceful on other people, but going light on the trigger, I feel like this is a very wearable fragrance. It's very strong. It lasts the entire workday. But a lot of people will say the opposite of all of this, that it's not office friendly, that the opening is the worst part, and that the performance sucks. So I'm just going to get into that's the points where I totally disagree when it comes to Carlisle. Now, to describe the scent, I already described the opening, but it is like that. The opening to me, I was in a Nordstrom when I first smelt it on the opening, and when the associate sprayed it on my arm, it was one of the highlights of all my olfactory experiences. Like, that was it for me. The best opening and one of the best experiences in perfume I've ever had, because I was hit with something so fresh and so interesting, but at the same time so warm and cozy. It'd be really hard to describe how that opening hits, but I do get a lot of the patchouli and the spices from the nutmeg, and it seems to create this sharp point, like really sharp and fresh. Almost, I would say to somebody, just as an analogy, apple cider. If you think of a lot of fall fragrances, they're like Cinnabon kind of fragrances, or ambery vanilla. This one hits sharp, almost like the fizz from apple cider just hit me in the face with a bunch of freshness. And then I was leaving the Nordstrom, and just the dry down and how it started having more of a comforting feel. One of the best experiences in perfume I've ever had. Instant 10 for this fragrance. So yeah, I ended up with the bottle of it. It was actually my third niche purchase. And I just got bored of it. It was weird. So I've been very up down with this fragrance. I've thought it was a 10. It's been my masterpiece. And then there's times I was bored of it and sold it. Now revisiting it, I feel like it's really up there again. Like, I really love it. So I go up down. The reason I went down, I feel like, with this one is I just prefer the opening so much that when it would go into the dry down, I would just start to feel a bit underwhelmed by it. Like, I would just start thinking, yeah, it's just kind of like an ambery cinnamon-like scent. So I ended up selling my bottle, but this time revisiting it, I love the dry down. So it's an up-down fragrance for me. Like, it's kind of a journey. I still love the opening, but I love the dry down so much more than I once did. Now, maybe it's because I've tried more things, so revisiting it, I have more of a frame of reference. But in the dry down, what makes this one really unique to me is it's just a very perfect, almost apple pie-like ambery sweetness that has a level of sharpness from the spices up top and kind of an earthiness on the bottom. And the whole thing is just blended so well. It's like really its own scent profile. And to me, it just feels so elegant. It feels so classy, so masculine. It does feel a bit mature, but it feels so in place with who I am as a person. Like, I really like it. And as a color, it's kind of like the color maroon to me. Like, it has that kind of red spice, kind of Christmassy vibe, but it has things that are darkening it and making it sophisticated. And it gives it almost like this really smooth kind of maroon-like smell. I just can't stop smelling it. Absolutely love it. I would say the whole scent profile of this is very specific. I feel like this is one of those ones you could wear it however you want. I'm learning this whole cold weather only fragrance thing is probably a marketing myth. Granted, it's true in some cases, but I could see myself wearing Carlisle on a 70-degree day. That being said, this one really seems one that just works way better in the cold. And it feels specific, like, for me at least. It doesn't feel like something year-round. I live in Texas. It's hot a lot of the year. So it's one of those ones that I don't really see, like, me going through a whole 125 milliliter bottle of it. But the same could be said about Tony Iommi Monkey Special. But Tony Iommi, I just slightly prefer over this one. But at the same time, I could easily see that some people are going to prefer Carlisle. Like, it's very subjective. But overall, I would say Carlisle is a masterpiece fragrance. And when people start bashing Parfums de Marly, saying they're a clone house, I'm like, what is Carlisle a clone of? Like, literally, brands have cloned Carlisle. Like, that's actually happened. Like, Carlisle kind of started a trend. And it was its own thing, an original from the brand, from my understanding. So I really don't understand that. I think a lot of these niche heads get really high up on their high horse and think that if you're not after like super artistic stuff that's not sensible, then you're a jock that wants to show up and just get compliments. Okay, fine. I like to smell good to other people. I'm super offended that you think that. Like, I've tried a lot of these super artistic niche independent houses that these people tote around as being the best. And a lot of the stuff to me just doesn't smell right. It's almost like people don't appreciate the sensibility of fragrances. And they think if you do, then you're some kind of show off. But I kind of try to find myself in the middle. And I feel like Carlisle fits that mold very beautifully. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like it's artistic enough to be really good. Like, it has a creative edge to it and it adds value to a collection, but it's not going so far into the artistic direction that it loses sensibility. Like, I feel like this is actually wearable, and believe it or not, I value fragrances being wearable, because the biggest waste of money is a $200 of a bottle that I can't wear. And then people will trash on Carlisle saying it's not worth $300, but they won't tell me which fragrances they pay $300 for, because I don't think any fragrance is worth that. If you look at the secondhand or gray market, for the price, I think Carlisle performs really good. It's interesting, it smells really good, it's very wearable. Like, every marker hits for me personally. So that's just a bit of my personal opinion and where I stand with it, because I know a lot of people like to bash this house and bash this fragrance. I've tried a lot of what they like, and it's just not for me. So we're just different personalities, and it's cool that they like what they like. I like what I like, and you like what you like. But as a reviewer, to give you a frame of reference in reviewing this, I'll let you know where I stand in the bigger picture with my personality and preferences. I do like things that have an element of artisticness, but also sensibility matters to me. And I think Carlisle is perfectly in that realm of something I would love. And something I'll add in here is, if you do love Carlisle and it's like a signature scent for you, and you want something that works in the spring or summer, that's a freshie, that kind of has a Carlisle-esque vibe, I would say Bulgari Guyane is one worth trying if you ever come across it. It's not the same at all. You might not like it, but it's worth trying because it really has that earthy patchouli kind of smell that Carlisle has, but it's a freshie, and it kind of does have a red vibe to it. And it just feels like Carlisle and Guyane would be like related, like spring, summer, Guyane, fall, winter, Carlisle. Like, I see that being a really good lineup for somebody. People will say there's a ton of alternatives, cheaper alternatives to Carlisle, but my experience, at least how I smell things and how I interpret them, there's really nothing else like Carlisle out there. I tried red tobacco, and I respect people that like it, but for me it was an absolutely not bottom. No, would not wear, unwearable, because I'm just hit with the biggest wave of cough syrup gag reflex kind of thing when I spray it on. Like, I'll be honest, I haven't actually worn it and experienced the dry down, but the opening is a no-go. Like, I love the opening of Carlisle because it's smooth, it's kind of light, and has an airiness to it. And I don't get cough syrup from Carlisle at all, but I do from red tobacco. Triumph of Bacchus is just, that's a fruity cherry cough syrup smell to me. I don't like it. It's not my style. It's way too sweet, too bubblegummy, and I see the connection to Carlisle, kind of, but I feel like it's kind of an unfair comparison. I feel like it's pretty different just in style and what it's presenting. Baroge Perlador gets the closest to Carlisle in my experience, but it has a Middle Eastern smell from the oud. It's also thicker. I don't feel like it's as ethereal. I don't think it's as light and airy. I think Carlisle is just in a lane of its own, and nothing else is like it out there. I think it's a beautiful, smooth, almost airy, fresh, kind of spicy scent with a very nice ambery kind of Christmas vibe going on. And then it has this really nice earthy base that's just so refined. Like, nothing is like it in my experience.
Okay, so my initial sniff gave me that delicious, to me, delicious scent of a menthol pack of cigarettes. So I guess it's really tobacco with menthol mixed together. And then there's like a little vanilla coming in. Yeah, that's what I smell. Very masculine, very good for the winter time, cold weather, fall when it's already cold. Very nice scent. I love it. I could not imagine anybody wearing this in the heat, because it just immediately makes you think of cozy sweater, fall colors. That's the vibe I get from it. I do associate this scent with somebody who's 30 and older. This is a 9. I love it.
So Carlisle is kind of for me and kind of not. I just don't, honestly, maybe it's worth a decant for me. I'm not really in a phase where I feel like I need a whole bottle of it. And I have a lot of fragrances that accomplish the same thing. I have 100 ml of Tony Yomi. But that being said, I love Carlisle, and it's definitely not one, like if I was rich, I probably would have a bottle of it. Don't really see the need for it, but I really do enjoy wearing it from time to time. I think it's an excellent fragrance. Yeah, I'm curious what y'all's opinions are on this. Feel free to comment with those, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.